Well, the Eagles are cornerback hunting, and it sounds like the most polarizing one of the entire NFL draft might have the attention of Howie, Roseman and company. Also, hear why one Eagles insider detailed the ongoing rift between Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni following last season's late collapse. And Haason Reddick, he's not an Eagle anymore, but it sounds like there's more to his departure than just money. I'm Thomas Mott. This is the Thomas Mott Show. Perhaps the most intriguing defensive player projected in this year's first round of the NFL draft is Iowa's cornerback Cooper DeJean for a bevy of reasons. First of which, he's a legit cornerback one, but he's white. Which, if you watch the NFL, you know that white cornerbacks, they basically do not exist and haven't for a very, very long time. If you don't believe me or say, Thomas, why does it matter? Well, take Jason Kelsey's word for it when he said last year that it's so hard that white people can't even do it. They don't even let white guys try anymore. They just say, nah, you're done. In fact, he is right. I mean, the last time historically a white cornerback was even drafted in the NFL was Troy Apke, who broke an 18-year drought in the NFL without a white cornerback. Unfortunately, after being drafted in 2022, Apke quickly switched to safety and only saw a couple of plays at corner basically ever since being drafted. Now, DeJean is a different player altogether, and it turns out multiple insiders report that Philadelphia is very interested in drafting the cornerback out of Iowa. And this all culminates in the news yesterday that DeJean sent a letter to all NFL clubs last week informing them that after suffering a broken fibula in November, he's now been cleared to return to all football activities and will hold individual workouts on October 8th at Iowa. He will do on-field testing and position work without any restrictions. So now the biggest hurdle in drafting DeJean, being the injury, seems to be healed, and Philly can move forward with sending a very large contingent reportedly to the Iowa Pro Day to see if this outlier cornerback will be maybe the next cornerback in Midnight Green. Let's be very, very clear. I mean, all stigmas aside, Cooper DeJean is a legit cornerback one with the versatility Philadelphia has not had in their secondary in a very, very long time. I mean, look what Outside D.I. Birds pointed out on Twitter saying, in terms of versatility, he had 1,192 outside snaps at cornerback, 163 at slot, 116 at box safety, and he was on the line of scrimmage 58 times. And in 841 coverage snaps, DeJean allowed 58 receptions on 120 targets for 640 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 7 INTs, adding that those are elite coverage numbers. He's also a reliable tackler with just 8 missed tackles and 1,500 total defensive snaps in his career at Iowa. Oh, and he has all-pro potential as a punt returner, which of course is an added bonus. That versatility is something that the National Football League absolutely loves with their secondary players, and again, something Philadelphia has not had in a very long time, and DeJean himself said at the NFL Combine that's one of his biggest strengths.
I feel like it's more about my versatility. You know, I feel like I've proved that I can play outside and inside. You know, obviously I haven't played safety in college, you know, but I feel like I have the ability to play multiple different positions in the back end.
Now, the good news for all you 46,444 subscribers and the 58% who still haven't hit the red button, that there are a couple of other really good cornerbacks, Quinyon Mitchell, for example, that will go ahead of DeJean, mainly due to the injury, but the odds of the Iowa Hawkeye being there at 22 seem very, very likely for Philadelphia. I think Philadelphia is all but guaranteed to go defense in the first round, whether it's trade up, stay put, or obviously trade back. However, it's going to be cornerback or pass rusher at this point. I'm all but certain it's corner most likely, pass rusher if they're available, and the only real offensive line option would be tackle or guard if they really wanted to go that route. What do you guys think of Cooper DeJean? Do you think he's worthy of a first-round draft pick? Do you think he'd be good in Philadelphia? Do you want the Eagles to draft him? Let me know down below right now. Another prospect to keep an eye on is Tulane's Jaquan Jackson, who flashed a ton at this year's Senior Bowl and is a real possible wide receiver slot 3 option, which Philadelphia kind of still needs. Now, multiple insiders have pointed to the fact that Philadelphia is very interested in the wide receiver, and with 9 picks in this year's draft, I'd expect the Eagles to add maybe 1, if not 2 receivers in the mid to late rounds. Now, I know we haven't talked a lot about Jalen Hurts or really Nick Sirianni since the offseason started, mainly due to the fact that free agency and the draft news have really taken over, but I found Jeff McLane's hit on 97.5 The Fanatic today to be very interesting when he was asked about the ongoing working relationship between quarterback 1 and head coach 1 and how it still has a long way to go.
And maybe Nick and Jalen aren't on the same page, or the relationship isn't as good as it normally is. I haven't heard anything really specific about that. Maybe some people have kind of referenced it or speculated that I've talked to. So I think that's kind of understandable. I don't think it's like a personal thing. I think maybe it just had a lot more to do with just like, hey, you're not putting me in the best positions to succeed, and I want to be in the best positions to succeed. Let's try and work on that.
Now, we talked a lot about Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni's relationship throughout the course of last season, especially during their late season collapse, but I think we kind of just moved off of it and assumed everything was okay until I heard Jeff McLane talk today, and they have a clip you just heard, where he basically explained that there's still some ongoing issues, and there still is somewhat of a rift and a disconnect based on what Nick Sirianni did to put Jalen Hurts, in his own mind, not in the right place to be as successful as he would like to be. This is something we have to keep an eye on going forward, knowing that it's not just fixed in a day. This is a relationship that needs to get rebuilt from the ground up, and I hope it can happen sooner rather than later. That way the team as a whole can benefit with more wins in 2024. Now, Jeff McLane also talked about the Haason Reddick trade and basically confirmed that it came down to not just age, not just price, but also a feeling inside the organization that Reddick was hunting sacks and freelancing too much in 2023 instead of going with the game plan on defense.
But he kind of struggled down the stretch, and I think there's some concerns about him in terms of like whether he was chasing sacks. He's never been a great run defender, guy sits the edge, and he wasn't alone in terms of struggling down the stretch, especially after they made the switch to defensive coordinator. So, again, you can see the argument for the Eagles not wanting to restructure his deal. Now, they had to do something this offseason because, $21 million cap is not what they wanted to pay him. So they were in a situation where they wanted to redo something as well. But he wants to get paid more. And I think the question about whether this deal is good or not is going to come down to what the Jets end up giving him, right?
And if this wasn't already clear from other reports I've shown you on this show, you should probably expect the fact that Reddick leaving was not just about age, money, or production. Like, McLane's report is on a long list of other little crumbs inside the locker room that hinted that Reddick's actions caused some turmoil internally, and whether or not that was actually serious in terms of like major turmoil or little annoyances here and there, I'm not really sure. But to say that nothing happened between Reddick and the team seems to be a serious ignoring of the facts that are at hand. I mean, take this source for what you will, but Jacob Sports reported yesterday that Vic Fangio met privately with Haason Reddick once he was hired, and basically Reddick wasn't happy with the role planned for him in Fangio's defense, therefore further exaggerating the rift. I read all the comments that you guys put down below, and obviously a lot of people are very upset that Haason Reddick is gone, and I was obviously one of them, just due to the fact that you're going to lose your leading sack man in a season where you need to go ahead and get after the quarterback. But this whole idea that the Eagles just didn't want to pay him, and now they're just going to reap the benefits of not having him on the roster, I think it's ridiculous. I think Reddick really caused some issues internally, and Philadelphia was looking at, well, we could just keep Josh Sweat, who was a little bit less of an issue, or maybe find a way to try to keep Haason Reddick, but can you rebuild the relationship with him like Fangio? There's a lot more that meets the eye than just money. Now, if you're one of those people that think, oh, all the NFL offseason moves during free agency are basically over, well, think again, as this non-Eagle trade, but still blockbuster happened earlier this morning when the Buffalo Bills sent disgruntled wide receiver Stephon Diggs to the Texans for a 2025 second-round draft pick. Now, the whole Diggs and Josh Allen-Buffalo relationship seemingly was waxing and waning with every single loss to the Chiefs in the postseason, but still, this is a mega move happening, again, weeks before the NFL draft and still weeks after NFL free agency. Diggs stays in the AFC, which is good for Philadelphia, but he goes to a Houston Texans team now that is loaded with talent trying to maximize everything they can out of CJ Stroud's rookie contract. And really, as you look at the AFC, you wonder if anybody is better set up to go after Kansas City than the Houston Texans are right now. I still think the Eagles wide receiver group is better than the Houston Texans group, mainly because we're still a little bit unknown on how Tank Dell can be as you come off the injury, but you're looking at maybe the best wide receiver core in the AFC, and if they're better than the Eagles, then the best wide receiver core in the National Football League. We got plenty more stuff happening the next couple of days and weeks, including Wednesday Link Live, myself and Josh Davis tonight. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, that way you're notified whenever we go live as we break down this and a whole lot of other Eagle-related stories. I'm Thomas Mott, hanging out on a Wednesday. This has been the Thomas Mott Show.